Okay, today we talked about applying the Pythagorean theorem, so we're going to solve application problems using the Pythagorean theorem. As a review, we went over what a right triangle is. A right triangle has one right angle and the other angles are complementary. Complementary means that they both add to be 90 degrees. The hypotenuse is the longest side of a right triangle and it's always opposite the right angle, and we call it side C. Notice that it's opposite that angle. The other two sides we call legs. We have A and B. They form the right angle. It doesn't matter which one's which. You could label that B and this one A, as long as you know that the hypotenuse is C. The Pythagorean theorem is a proven rule, and it describes the relationship between the lengths of the legs, so between A and B, and the hypotenuse C of any triangle. And it states that if a triangle is a right triangle, then A squared plus B squared equals C squared. And we actually sang a song to this to help us remember this. So on example 1, it says television screens are measured by their diagonal length. I'm going to draw a television screen. If a screen has a width of 21 inches, this would probably be 31 for my length, and a length of 31, how big is the television screen? So to determine how big it is, remember it says up there that television screens are measured by their diagonal length. I'll call it X, or if you'd like, we could call it C. And then we're going to use the Pythagorean theorem, which states 31 squared, A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So the first thing you're going to do is square 31, which is 961, square 21, which is 441, and we add those together, which is 1402, and then we have to do the opposite of squaring. The opposite of squaring is taking the square root, and the square root of 1402 is about 37 inches, 37.4, so we're going to say how big is the television screen? 37 inches. Okay, example 2 says a boat ramp starts at 4.2 feet above the water. We got water, and this distance would be 4.2. If the distance from the edge of the ramp to the end of the ramp, so from the edge of the ramp to the end is 25 feet, find the length of the ramp. So we'll call it C. So we take A squared, 4.2 squared plus B squared, 25 squared equals C squared. So we take 4.2 squared, that gives us 1764, plus 25 squared is 625, equals C squared. We add those two to get 642.64. And then we have to do the opposite of squaring, which is taking the square root, and the square root of that is about 25.4 feet, and we're going to go to the nearest tenth because it had a value that was to the nearest tenth. Okay, on example 3, we're going to find the missing side length, and we need to round to the nearest tenth if necessary. So I think the most important thing is, some of you guys know that this is a pyramid, and you need to identify the right triangle that we're talking about. So here's our right triangle. Oops. And we're going to take A squared, in this case I'm going to call it X squared, plus 28 squared. This will be equal to C squared, 39 squared, and recognizing that 39 is the longest side. So we're going to square the 28, which is 784, square the 39, which is 1,521, and then from here you're going to subtract 784, which is 737, and then we'll take the square root of that. And then it gives us 27.14, so that will stay at 1, and then we would add meters to it. Our next one's a little bit more complicated. It wants us to find X. Now if you look, we have a rectangular prism, and it wants to know X, but we also don't know what this length is right there. So we're going to actually use the smaller triangle, to find that. We'll call it C. So to find that, we take 12 squared plus 5 squared equals C squared. 12 squared is 144. 5 squared is 25. We're going to add those together to get 169. And then we're going to do the opposite of squaring, which is taking the square root. And we get 13. So C is 13, and now I can use that in my second equation. So I'm going to take that 13 squared plus 20 squared equals x squared. So we just found 13 squared was 169. 20 squared is 400. We're going to add those together to get 569. And then we'll do the opposite of squaring, which is to take the square root. And we get 23.85, so 23.9 inches for x. Alright, that should help you with your 9-5 applying the Pythagorean theorem. Good luck.